J Mack. I'm not even going to do an intro, I'm just going to get straight into it so we can bring Lisa on. I've been absolutely jumping at the bit for this episode for as long as I knew that Lisa had accepted to do it. J Mack, are you excited for this one?
Absolutely, man. I think there's any point in me saying again how important Neverending Story was to its contribution to my love of film, and it was a film that was always there for me. So, to get the opportunity to talk to Lisa about her journey of putting this together it's going to be fun.
This being Life After the Neverending Story, we will talk to Lisa about all her Life After documentaries and her work, but this one's especially where we had to start. I heavy enjoyed it, but I'm not going to go into it right now because I'm dying to get Lisa on. So I'm going to go ahead and play the trailer for all you at home that have yet to either rent this. I know you can get it here in the UK on Prime. You can go ahead, rent or buy it there. But if I was you, I would buy the actual Blu-ray, and I'll tell you why after you watch it.
I bought it on Prime. I bought it on Prime. I didn't get all the special features, man. I'm gutted now.
There's still time. There's still time. Ladies and gentlemen, the trailer for Life After the Neverending Story.
The making of the Neverending Story was a real roller coaster ride, a wild roller coaster ride.
This movie was something that everybody could relate to.
One of the greatest films that has ever been made, in my opinion.
This is the place where the Neverending Story was shot.
The story itself is really, really profound and deep.
It gives me goosebumps even to just talk about it now.
Never-ending story.
It's got that X factor.
Noah, he's had a lot of trauma from the business.
I had to learn how to walk again.
Anybody who's been famous since they were a child to an adult, I can assure you that they're not in reality.
Yeah, cash literally saved my life. I just lost my mom last week. Dog was much harder.
You're looking at 30 years of neglect.
I know Michael Ende didn't like the film.
Wolfgang's ego became even bigger.
Diciamo più semplice e più efficace.
And the painting is telling me what to do.
The horse was really going down there.
I tell people I got a fishbowl with dollar bills. Please take one because I know you went to therapy.
This is the first time I'm back in Munich since I was 10 years old.
So many of us as children of the 80s are now adults. We're showing it to other generations over the years, and it just remains a part of our lives.
People hark back to that time in their life before responsibility, before, dare I say it, some pain.
It's perfect.
But that's another story.
See that attention to detail? But that's another story. How many times have we ended the podcast that way? Hey?
Too many. We'll probably do it again tonight.
100%. And you can do it this time. Ladies and gentlemen, it is absolutely our pleasure to welcome to the show Lisa Downs. Lisa, welcome to the Jibber Jabber podcast, and what can only be for us an understated pleasure.
Well, hello, and I must say, in your intro, I really loved how you had me floating with Falcor across the screen. That made me smile.
Oh, good.
I was really laughing. I burst out laughing when I just seen little Ingewook just riding on the back of Falcor with Lisa for some reason.
It was wonderful.
Well, remember what I said about the intros, right? Remember what I said?
I know.
The thing is, we were together on Falcor, and I didn't want Lisa to be there on her own, so I was like, right. Who was the nicest? And do you know what? I mean, we all seen Neverending Story when we were kids, right? Did those, gnomes not terrify you to begin with? Like, because those guys are terrifying.
The gnomes terrified you?
Oh,
everything else that's going on.
What's scarier, other than Gmork? What's scarier in the Neverending Story than those guys looking at you going, hey, he's awake?
I tell you, the worms always weirded me out. It's probably the closest, but they were always fun. They were so supportive of each other, and they were playful together, and they kind of had a really great rapport.
Eating the worms, yeah. Well, they became really, really sound, but they're scary to look at. You don't think so? There's something scary about because they don't look. I mean, they don't look like monsters. They look real, and there's something scary about that.
Apart from Gmork, the thing that always freaked me out was the thing in the ivory tower with the 4 faces. That was always another thing for it.
I was actually quite enjoyed that. God, the comment section is filling up like hell tonight, which is great. Reign of Horror says, "What up, crew? Hope all has been well." well is understatement here. Lindsay Payton says, very profound and deep. Loved it as a child and brought new layers of depth through the eyes of an adult. Loved it. Got a great comment from Lindsay as well. It's available on Prime here in the US. Hey, where are you currently right now, Lisa?
I'm in England, but it is available
Right.
on Amazon in the US.
I thought,
So
because J Mac thought you were maybe out in Australia, and I thought, oh no, are you like,
I grew
waiting
up
up for us?
Sydney.
Right, I see. Ginny says, I'm a bit under the weather, but I'll be fine. He'll make it. Anyways.
Be confident.
Be confident, exactly. Oh, man. So to give everybody a little bit of context, you have a company called Life After, which basically jumps back into our childhood and rips it into the present day, but you tell the story of what happened after, what is life like for everybody involved in the documentary. But not only did you do that, like for me, like watching Life After Neverending Story, you really captured the beauty of what made that special. Because I'll tell you a quick story. J Mac and I, when we first started this podcast, the plan was always to maybe partner up with a cinema, put on our favourite movies, promote it, and do all that really cool stuff, which we managed to achieve and then some. But our first ever event we did was Neverending Story. And do you know how many adults for the first time that came up to us after, they came through the podcast and were like, oh, okay, I'll check out Neverending Story. Came up after and was like, that was fucking shit. Right? And we're like, because they didn't watch it as a kid, eh?
There's a nostalgia to it that I think you love it because of what it meant to you as a kid. Because I have
100%.
friends, and even my husband had watched it before starting this documentary. I was like, well, you have to see it. And he was like, no. Because you can appreciate it really is just like scene. It feels very blocky if you watch it with an adult hat, but you have to watch it with the memories that you have as a kid, I think. And I think that's what, a lot of nostalgia is, isn't it? It's you watch something as an adult, you're like, it's not really like a great movie. But I personally think it still is a great movie.
For so many reasons.
Yeah.
And a lot of those reasons you really have to watch the doc in order to really get it, because it's very well explained in there. It totally is. That and the fact that there's several films in that era, and there's a really great reason, which we'll not go into because I want people to go and explore that. But my question to you really is, what was the moment in your life where you were like, this is the direction I'm going to go in? Life After. Was it purely just because of your love of those films or how they made you feel?
I didn't kind of set out to do. I've always loved nostalgia, just to preface it. I love nostalgia. I love my childhood. Like, I love all the VHS that I had in my childhood. I love the things I watched Saturday morning, like Trolls, whatever. I loved Smurfs. I had a great childhood. And I've just always loved things that connected me back to that. But where I was in my career, I had done a degree in Australia for TV production, and I had done a documentary for my third year project where I went to India for 10 days to do a short on a Tibetan children's village that's there. And that kind of got me into loving documentaries. And then I worked for documentary companies. I did another documentary on my own. And I was kind of at a point where I was like, I really want to be doing my own ideas, because I had been working so hard making other people's ideas a reality with production companies, that I just thought I'm just going to see what kind of comes my way that could be a feature. And I was working with a friend. You would know the show The Jump, I think, being in England or Scotland. Celebrities do like Olympic ski jumps.
I think I've heard of it, but
it was on a while ago.
Sam Jones, Flash Gordon, was one of the contestants. He didn't actually make it to air because he broke his shoulder or hurt his shoulder. And a friend of mine was working on it and became quite close to him. And we were talking at a party, and she was talking about Flash Gordon. And I was like, oh my God, I love Flash Gordon. I just missed him and Melody at a Comic-Con. I was really disappointed. And I just said, what's he done since Flash? He's got Ted, but kind of what happened in between that would make a really great documentary. And she said, well, why don't you write a proposal? And I was like, we'll call it Life After Flash, like drinking wine and having a good old chat. And she pitched it, and then we were Skyping Sam. And then 3 months later, we were in Texas filming in Laredo. So it kind of just all happened really quickly. And it kind of found us. And it was my husband, Ash, who also works with me on these, produces them. he was the one that suggested it should be a series. And so I had already started thinking about other films that I would love to do. And then there are a lot of moving parts in what actually happens between the idea and it becoming a reality and we start production. So I had a whole list of films that I wanted to do, and then naturally Navigator, Flight of the Navigator happened next, and then Neverending Story happened next, and that's kind of how it trickled. But it just kind of came upon us, but it was perfect because I just love nostalgia, and I think there's something so special about nostalgia in people's lives.
1,000,000%. If you look at J Mack and I's surroundings, we're caked, and you can't even see the rest of it. We're absolutely caked in nostalgia. By the way, Flash Gordon, right? We done a deep dive episode on that where we go right into the bones of it, and I kind of said to J Mack, who's a huge fan, and Matthewman, who does a lot of the artwork for us, he's a huge fan, seriously huge fan, and I was like, Flash actually doesn't do a lot through the film. He actually just gets caught all the time, right, and gets his ass kicked. Do you think I'm wrong?
He is the greatest superhero that doesn't have any superpowers. Like, he is just an average man who is just great at sport, that gets thrown into the situation and just saves the universe. And there's something really wonderful about the fact that he kind of doesn't like do much. He throws like a watermelon or something around and saves the day. But
that was the scene I was going to mention. There's the watermelon scene, and then I love the watermelon scene and the scene on the table, the tilting table with the spikes when he was fighting against Baron. So it does stand his ground when he has to, but most of the time, he just gets caught and then takes credit.
That's why it's
much,
really
I know.
Yeah.
Well, you touched on it there. See, when you start, so you've got your idea, and I imagine it's not really up to you what ones you can actually do, because there must be a lot of hurdles, which for me would always be like, the boring part of this process, or at least the not so fun part. What are those parts like? Like for you, if I said do Life After Halloween, what would be your biggest obstacles that would maybe put you off taking on such a title?
Well, I think it depends on who the main actors are, if there's anything that's been done on it in the past. And just, I've certainly had a few films that I've tried to reach out to people with no luck. I think if there's people at a certain level, you need a body of work probably bigger than what I had when I was doing Flash to kind of prove that I could do something. I wrote a lot of emails to people during the production of Flash, so I didn't even have anything out to show people. I was very, very lucky that Sam said yes to me. I had done a feature that was scripted. I had done a couple of my documentaries and, music videos and little things, but nothing kind of on this level. And he had just said, he was about 2 days before my pitch to him, he was talking to his wife, Ramona, and he was saying, I feel like I want an opportunity to tell my story on whatever platform. And happened to have that conversation 2 days before I pitched. And so he spoke to his wife and she was like, I think you should do it. So how lucky am I that he took that chance and said yes to me? But there are certainly a lot of people that didn't. And it's sometimes you need a connection through someone else to talk to someone, or so everything kind of, I always believe, unfolds how it should. So certainly the ones that I've done and the ones I'm doing have been a lot of work to get to where they are, and a lot of persistence. I had spent 2 years trying to get hold of Noah for Neverending Story before actually getting hold of him. We were due to meet in 2017 and that didn't happen. So it was another 2 years of trying to email and contact him. And Joey, I was lucky for Flight of the Navigator that he was in jail. So he was
not going where.
so I found where he was, we became pen pals.
Yeah.
But if he wasn't in jail, I would never have found him. He didn't have social media. He didn't know how to use computers. So the timing has kind of always been really good. And I know that you've got the Goonie flag. And so I know that I'm doing Goonies, but that I've been wanting to do that since 2017. So there's such a process of the timing has to be right. It depends who is in it. How big, if I wanted to do like Life After Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, am I going to get close to Brad Pitt? Probably not. So, it's a whole process of wanting to do something, trying to put the feelers out to do it, and then allowing the universe to be like, yes, you should do this one.
It's kind of the same. Like podcasting is very similar because a lot of the bigger guests that we've had have been recommended from people that have come on the show. They get what we're about and they vouch for us, which allows other, like especially if you're a big celebrity, there's almost like a guard there. Like, what if I go on and these dafties try and make me look silly? But you're totally right. And you spent 2 years trying to get hold of Noah. We've spent like 8, and at least you got somewhere eventually because we got nowhere.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and it is, and we've been at Comic-Cons where I had in the past emailed. You know, I try and avoid agents. They're the last port of call because they tend to just be a financial thing and more than creative. But you know, if that's the only option, there was one time at a Comic-Con where I was trying to get hold of someone. And then it was like, no. And then I saw them at the Comic-Con and they were like, I would love to do it. I would love to do an interview. So they just never had the message. And of course, that's the agent's job to gatekeep. And, you know, fair enough, they're doing what's right. But yeah, it is. It's tricky, and you just have to be patient about it all and not be insulted if someone says no, you know. So keep plodding along.
It's just, we've told this story a few times on the podcast, so I'll give you the abridged version of it. But you know, are you aware of the director Tibor Takas? He created one of our nostalgic favourites, a film called The Gate. It was stop motion and Stephen Dorff. He also made Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
I know that
TV series, right? So
I certainly do.
We're huge fans of The Gate. Life After the Gate would be phenomenal, but you don't know the film, so your heart wouldn't be in it, right? But the thing is, J Mac literally was like, after a few beers, do you know what? I'm just going to find him on Facebook and phone him, right? And he did, and Tibor came on, right? So sometimes
you just have to take a chance.
Right.
Sometimes you just have to take a drink and then take a chance.
And you know, here's a question that I can ask you finally, because a lot of the people we speak to don't. But get this, right? Do you ever think to yourself, right? I'll get a hold of Brad Pitt, and his email will be something like Brad ... something so non-easy to find. But most of the time when you get a celebrity's email, it's literally like bradpitt@gmail.com, right?
Yeah.
Have you been like, wait a minute, what? This whole time it was so easy. Just could have guessed that.
There's also the flip side of that. It's either so easy or just like the most random. You know, like cell phone 71, like not even related to. So yeah, it is really interesting. That's part of the fun of tracking people down, I think too. Is like, you know, Dora the Explorer trying to get through to everyone.
As a filmmaker and a podcaster, right? I'll lump them together. That is exactly what you become, right? You almost become like a bit of a bounty hunter. How do I get a hold of this whole earth, right? How do I get a hold of this one person? That's a skill, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
Actually is. I would say that because it's finding different avenues, not taking no for an answer, but not being pushy. You don't want to pester someone, but you want to, you know, it is. I feel like it's a skill, and it's definitely something that I've honed over time. To
do you know?
I don't probably too much, but by the end, he was just like, no, stop it.
Oh, that sucked. Do you know, I don't mind giving away my secrets because I'm like, here, I'm good at it. And if I can give it to other people as a bit of advice for them to start doing something that they love. But do you know, I always find the best thing that I can ever do whenever I've met anybody at Comic-Con or anybody that's related in the industry that are now essentially friends of ours, is see if you start just by giving. Straight up, rather. Do you know what I mean? If there's something you can offer them that really isn't that much of an issue for yourself, the chances are they're going to, one, know what you're about, but two, well, now you've got a reason to get their contact information. For example, we've just filmed your set here at this convention. We are going to hand it over to Monopoly. However, if you would like us to edit it for you and send it to you for your social media, please just give us your email and we'll do that. And then they're like, oh, okay, here's my email. And then you send them the footage so they can use it. And then you're like, so anyway, what are you up to next month? Do you know what I mean?
My main thing for me is, because obviously I normally like never have anything to offer people apart from, can you be in my documentary?
That's excellent.
It's just not being expectant. I've seen people's emails just through all the work that I've done on various things when you're approaching people. It's like some people have this approach of, you would be missing out if you're not part of what I'm doing, you know, but I think I just go into it not expecting anything from anyone. Like no one owes me to give their time, you know, so it's more just, I think as long as I always do everything like from the heart, then I feel like that's the best chance that I have. But you definitely get your own style of doing things. And I wish I had, sets to be like, you can have this amazing thing if you do my interview. But I just never have anything to offer other than them being part of it.
Well, look at what you have right now. I mean, if I was doing the talking for you, I'd be like, look at this incredible work she's already done. In fact, here's a DVD. Go watch it, right? And if you feel it, give me a shout and we'll talk.
And there's a collector booklet in it as well.
Yes, there is, by the way. This is why I always go for physical media. The one thing I would say, as a huge fan, right, and I know Insight have just done something phenomenal. I've not got 200 quid to spend on a DVD. My wife would kill me, but I will get it at some point, right? But see if it had a reversible cover. That would just be icing on the cake.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Do you not collect physical media, Lisa?
You know what? I do, but I never really open them because I don't have a Blu-ray player.
I actually am shocked. This is now when Kevin offers you a Blu-ray player for free, and then you give us a bunch of gifts.
But I do. People were reviewing the imprint, and they were talking about the reversible cover, and I was like, "That's a great idea." Like I should have
absolutely. Well, life after the Goonies, life after Goodfellas, life after Grease. I've got a guy, by the way, that does excellent covers. You've seen his work before. But yeah, I love getting physical media. But for me, at this point now, where the world has changed, physical media for me, I have to love it. If I don't love it, then I don't really buy it because I've got no space, because I'm surrounded by everything I love. And literally, space is so kind of away. Yeah. Never in this.
One question that's on my mind. Obviously, you are the creator of this. You directed
the Dawn.
Yes. Now
I tear my mouth and I nearly
yeah.
Sorry.
Obviously, you talk to a lot of different people. I'm assuming in a lot of different places doing this. It looks like there was quite a lot with Tammy Stronach when she was walking around the film studio.
That was our first love.
And
she still should be. She's fabulous.
Yeah,
first didn't say old. I said first. It wasn't our former.
Are you present for basically everything that we see on film? Everything we see. Everything original anyway.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that remote filming. Well, I say yes. In Neverending Story or Navigator, there were a couple of remote interviews I had to do because of lockdown. And I was like, I don't know when lockdown's finishing. And Ed Ith, the designer in Navigator, was remote. And a couple of like the fans. But there's a rapport you get with people from talking to them leading up to the interview. Like I feel like with a lot of people, I know them already before I go and interview them. And I feel like there's something that you can't get with the remote interview that you can if you're there in person, chatting before the interview, picking up on things that they say. It's really important to me to be there for them. So absolutely, apart from a couple of lockdown interviews, I'm there 100%. And for me, it's worth it. Like, if an interview, I would fly to LA especially for some interviews to do and just fly back because I want to be there. And also I'm making these documentaries because I love the films and I want to meet these people. I don't want to send a remote crew and just go through Skype. Like I want to be there and I want to meet them and interact with them and connect with them. And I feel like that relationship helps in the whole journey of the film as well. And kind of like you with people you have on your podcast, like I feel like my Christmas card list has just expanded with everyone I'm meeting on this journey. And I feel like we have a really wonderful connection with like 99% of the people that we interview and become friends with. So I feel like I appreciate, obviously for budgets a lot of people do remote, but for me it's really important to be there in person.
Absolutely. You said that there that your Christmas card grows. I mean, that essentially I was always aware of life after the stuff you were doing, but it was only just like last month we had Mark Marshall on. And he really was singing your praises. Yeah. He was the one that told me to reach out to you. He says, you need to meet Lisa. And his experience with you was amazing, eh? And at that point, I was like...
He's one of my favourite people.
and it was we absolutely we mentioned Neverending Story to him, and he was like, "Well, I actually have been working on Life After the Goonies. You need to meet Lisa." And I was like, "That's right, because I think so." We never worked. We knew another local podcaster, Adam Gradwell, and I'm sure he showed us your stuff before, and that's how you kind of came on our radar at the time.
Yeah, he's wonderful. I've known him. Was he involved in Flash? I can't remember how far we go back, but he was actually the reason Goodfellas is happening.
Yeah.
Because in another, I don't know if he told you the story, in another kind of the universe lets it happen. Ash had been saying to me, we're doing Flash Gordon and Neverending Story, which he watched and didn't really like, and Navigator, and they were all films that were really important to me. And obviously knowing Goonies was coming up, he was like, I really want to do a film. Why can't we do a film that I really like? And his favorite film in the entire world is Goodfellas. And we literally had that conversation about a week before Adam out of the blue texted, and he was like, what about Life After Goodfellas? I know Chris Cerrone. So I was like, well, there we go. We've got to say yes. So yeah, he's been very instrumental.
That's great. So is this how it works then? So people that tell you their favorite films, and if they know someone, you can make it happen?
Not all. Well, it has to also be a film that I love. And also, like, I do love Goodfellas. It's not my ultimate favorite, but I do.
Well, you already essentially you've done the one I would ask you to do anyway. But I know no one from it. But we do know loads of people from others.
The one that I get requested the most, because it's really fun for me when people request documentaries, because it means that they love what we're doing, and they're thinking about future ones. But The Last Starfighter is the most requested one, and I hadn't seen it. So last year I watched it for the first time with my teenage hat on, and I thought it was a great film. I don't know if I will do that. Obviously, it depends on any opportunities. And also it's trying to balance how many to do at once, even though we do multiple to make the most of the budgets. And when we're traveling overseas, it's quite a lot at the moment, juggling 3. But I never like to pass up an opportunity, because there's also a couple of other things on the side we're working on that aren't Life Afters. So which is still nostalgia based. So I'll see.
Life After Samurai Cop.
Have you not seen
Samurai
special?
Cop? That would be something else.
Okay, no.
What would you top?
I have a long list that I would also love to do.
You need to send me that list, and I can connect you with anybody that we might know, because there's surely there's some films on that list that we will have associated this podcast with. I mean, we've been here around nearly 8 years. And we're a weekly podcast, so the chances are we'll know someday at least. Oh, this is exciting.
Actually, you were saying
my energy holds up.
You were saying about kind of trying to juggle things. Like I noticed in the Life After Neverending Story, there was a short clip with a guy wearing a Goonies t-shirt, and his name was Goonies Dad. So I'm assuming that he's going to be in the Goonies one, and maybe happened to mention something about Neverending Story when you were doing that.
Yeah, he was just someone that I met. Again, I can't remember how I met him. I think through Adam Gradwell, like still full circle. But I just, I loved his love of nostalgia, and we were talking about Goonies, and I went to interview him for the Goonies one, and I was just asking him questions about Neverending Story because I was filming it, and it was just a great interview, so I really enjoyed it, and it meant a lot to him to be part of it too, so that was important to me.
Yeah,
that's the guy that has all the stuff, the cool stuff.
Oh my God, Wesley.
Oh mate, did you offer to buy any of that stuff while you're in there? I was like, oh my God, I want to be there.
I have the money to be buying stuff, and I'm trying to trying to raise money.
He is a real life Goodfellas. I wonder to myself, it's like people that travel around with wrestling shows and they're in the front row at WrestleMania every year, or people that have like the actual book from Neverending Story. Like, what do they do for a living?
Well, he's an actor and producer, so he's in the business, so he knows people where to find the stuff. People have worked on films that he's done deals with, but his house was incredible. I mean, to have, again, like, I don't know if you saw the bonus on the Blu-ray of his extended bit,
right,
of Wesley, but he has like Edward Scissorhands' hands.
Yeah, I saw that.
Room that we couldn't film with stuff that was fascinating. He had the whole like Home Alone stuff and the Notebook and the penny from Ghost. That it was just
wow.
It was it was incredible.
A Mac. He had a Mac from Mac and Me.
Me.
Yes, phenomenal.
I'm such a Michael Jackson fan.
Speaking the language.
He was my first concert, the history tour.
Oh, he's the one I never got.
I love this is tickets to This Is It. It's heartbreaking. But Moonwalker I really love, and he had the little kind of raisin, where he turns into like a raisin rabbit.
Yeah.
The dance. He had the original things from that, and like his house was just incredible, and the shard from the Dark Crystal and Labyrinth.
Saw that.
It was just the most, and he was just so lovely. So he was someone that I'm really pleased that I connected with on this journey, and I think he has Goonie coins as well. So I'm hoping to go back.
Of course he does.
I like the idea of life after the Dark Crystal, and it's just a wee bunch of old puppets talking to camera.
Yeah.
It's like, after that, my life just went way off track.
Yeah, I mean that is one I would love to do.
That'd be something else. Got a couple of comments here. Matthewman says, Holla gents, Neverending Story was the first movie I saw in the cinema. Was never scared of nothing but big-chested gold statues. Terrified younger me. He says, won't hear a bad word against Flash, against Big Flash. Let it be, gents. Lee says, hi Lee. We've got Matthewman. Life After Explorer is a must.
Explorers.
That's one that is requested a lot. Explorers.
Yeah. Lindsay says, was speaking with Kevin last week about Flight of the Navigator, another of my favourites. Goonies / Goodfellas classics. To Life After Police Academy. Oh, hey.
There is a Police Academy documentary series in the works. I don't know where it's at. It's from the guys that did, I think it's called Screenings, that did the Pennywise.
Oh, Gary, that's right. No, you're right, actually. Yeah, they're good friends of ours. He is doing one on Police Academy. There
is Police Academy in the works, but I think they just finished releasing one about Robert Englund, I think.
That's right. It was Hollywood Dreams and Nightmares.
Yeah. So I think they're doing like all the police academies, I think. So
do you
that's what I wouldn't do, because obviously it's been done.
I know. That's what I was about to say there. I was like, see, as now, like you're basically in the same lanes. Different, style different, right? But are you like now like all the crystals trying, oh no, I better grab this before someone else does? Because
I don't think so. I'm always, like I said, a strong believer in everything happens for a reason. I really love Pet Sematary, and I saw that they had done one on Pet Sematary, so I was like, well, I'm really happy.
That was the first one.
Obviously, I would have loved to have done that. But what I really love is, since kind of back in time, the gates open for indie filmmakers to be doing documentaries on nostalgia films and kind of looking back in retrospectives. And I think just for me, the thing that I want to do differently is to have a bit more than just the making of, is have that personal connection with the star. And I think as long everyone's putting their own stamps on their films, and the Ghostbusters one was great, Back in Time was great, I think the Pennywise guys are doing really well. The RoboDoc, I hadn't really seen RoboCop, and I couldn't stop watching RoboDoc, and I think that's excellent. So I think
it was phenomenal.
I love that. Sorry.
No, sorry.
I was just going to say, I love that all like the indie filmmakers are kind of in the same support system.
Yeah, and you know what as well? I think like it never ever feels like, I've never spoke to one documentary maker who's ever been like, yeah, screw them. It's all everybody's very loving, because we all love the same things. We covered RoboDoc when it came out, and they all came on, and that team are phenomenal. I think that's that's when like we ourselves have a production company as well. There's a team of like 5 of us, and I know that a project that we go for, you have to know that you've got the team behind you, and your team is such a huge part of it. How did you put your team together? Of course, your husband is a producer.
It's really when I say team, it's really the two of us. I do all the like legwork, the raising the money, finding the interviewees, doing the logistics, booking everything, doing all the questions, doing the interview. He comes along, helps with kind of the bigger picture of the brand. We both shoot. He helps produce. So it really is the two of us up until you get to things that I just can't do, like graphics and the audio mix and the grade, even though I graded Neverending Story because I didn't have the money to get someone to do it. So I had to learn. So it's, I'm kind of proud that we did it, but I'd like to not do it again. So more the post-production side of things, we have people to come and help, like the Blu-ray design and the things like that. But it really is just the two of us for 90% of it. But we have the people that we worked with for Flash, like our composer is wonderful. I met an amazing graphics guy on Neverending Story, so he's now part of the team, Neil, that he's going to join. So when I like, it's the same people as soon as they're on board, like that's it. So there's maybe like another 3 people that become 3 to 5 people that become the team when it gets to all those kind of things. But pretty much from conception through to the end of the edit is just Ash and I, and then everything else kind of gets laid on the top.
How is that, just working so closely with the person you're married to, like just so much time getting spent together? Is it tough, or do you enjoy it?
I mean, there are obviously wonderful pros. There are times when, you know, it's a bit exhausting, just all the travel, but we're doing it together. And so I would say 97% of the time, it just works out really well. Like we both love film. We're both, you know, to be doing Goodfellas, and he really loves it. I love seeing him meet all these amazing people who made Goodfellas happen. And so it is really exciting. And I think just because we know how to work with each other, and it's so easy to travel together, that I wouldn't change it. You know, it's obviously, you know, tough sometimes when you're just tired, you know, lugging tripods or whatever. But I think the reality is something like this, it's kind of the only way it can happen.
See, anytime we've done conventions or any project, short films or whatever, I always find that, like, because it's such a love, like, there are jobs in life that you don't actually call a job because you're really lucky and you love what you're doing. I remember like hauling a big tripod through a comic convention, and I was like, do you know what, let's make this fun. So I just started walking like I was Arnie in Commando and just kind of pretending it was a minigun. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think things like that you can really turn it into something fun. But
I think it's like, I have a lot of friends who are working that, you know, they don't really like their job and they're just doing 9 to 5 to make ends meet. And I think even though doing things that, when you're doing something you love, it's so much more hard work because you don't really turn off. Like, I imagine for, you know,
That's
we're
true.
here Sunday night doing this, but we do it because we want to do it. And I think
100%.
some people can't understand that. So to be in a position where I'm with someone that understands the fact that on a Saturday morning, I might need to go in and do some editing, or I'm emailing someone on like 1 a.m. on a Thursday, you know, I think it's really rare to have that. So even though it's so much more hard work, like, it's so much more rewarding doing what you love.
Of course. I was just talking to Lindsay the other day, and she was saying, you know, people see the thing that you've got or the thing that you've done, and they say, oh, that's amazing, and just assume that it's just something you kind of done. But what they don't see is the 15 years leading up to it, you know, the waking up, as she says, at 2 a.m. and going to sleep at 11, you know.
Yeah. And the
it totally
tears.
is.
Oh my God. Like, but we just keep doing it. I can't, like, if you just think about your life, like without your podcast and about what you do, I just, you know, it's probably not a very satisfying life.
It adds colour to what can sometimes be a black and white existence, right? It totally does. That's for me. A lot of the time, I look forward to sitting right here and making the graphics up and making smart wee intros and just stuff like that. I always think as well, half the time I do it to get Jay Mack. I'll do something and I'll produce something that he's unaware of, and then I bring it up during the show, and watching him fall off his seat, sometimes that's all I need in life. Barrett Oliver, and I didn't think, see before I even put that on, I went, I don't think he's going to be in it, because I've seen other than him joining ZZ Top, I've seen nothing of him online ever. Did you didn't get a response at all?
So my process of Barrett Oliver, I went so far with my digging that I found photos of a wedding he was at.
No way, you're next level.
Years ago. So I contacted the groom. It was the best.
Well done.
So I reached out to the groom, and he was like, "Oh, I haven't really had contact with him anymore." And then I think a lot of people know that he had this book out about like printing and photography and from 19th century. The history of the Woodbury type. So the publisher, I saw that they were selling signed copies on the website. So I bought a signed copy to try and become friendly with the publisher. So I have the book. It's a lovely book. And so I had a lot of back and forth with the publisher saying, oh, I would love to, like, does he do media? Can he talk about the book? I wrote a letter that the publisher passed on to him. And it was really just I'm going to be in LA. Like, would you even just have a coffee to talk about, you don't even have to talk about like Neverending Story. Like, I would love to even just interview you about your book, your photography work. Like, let's just have a 10-minute coffee.
Trojan horse.
No, nothing. And he just said he just wasn't replying. Like,
oh, really?
So I think he's distanced himself so much from Hollywood or interviews, like maybe Neverending Story put him off. But I really did try with him, and I wasn't kind of expecting him to say yes just from what I knew about him. But I really did like try all avenues to at least get a message to him. And I know that it got to him. So that's kind of, for me, as long as I know that the person got my request, then I can't really be like frustrated if they don't respond, because at least I know that they got it and that's their choice.
Yeah.
I don't think sorry.
Another person that was unfortunately missing from it was Wolfgang Peterson. He obviously passed away before you got to speak to him. Now, it comes up in the blurb at the end that the interview was set, and obviously it didn't happen. What happened that day? Could you go through that?
Yeah, so there were actually kind of two instances with him. It was, I want to say, like just as it was January 2020, and he said yes to the interview then. And I was I was producing a series for Sky at that point, and my contract ended in March, and I had just left for 3 weeks, very short notice, to film for Navigator. And I was like, do I take more time off from this job when I'm about to wrap it up in the post-production to fly in February to go and interview him? And I was like, I just can't do it. I've literally just like been a terrible employee and taken all this time off to go and film like the Navigator reunion and all of that. And then lockdown, then we had an interview set for April. And then lockdown happened in March. Like, we had flights booked, we were going out, and then lockdown happened, and we were like, okay, we can't go because we don't know when the borders are going to open. And then by the time the borders opened and we were coming back out, like, she just said he can't do it anymore. And I didn't realize he was sick at that point, but that's kind of, it was going to be like only a couple of months before he passed. So I was really disappointed. I would have loved to have met him. I wish I had just bit the bullet and gone in the February, because that's what I had done for Richard Donner for Goonies. But I was just like, if I hadn't done that trip for Navigator, then I probably would have. But it was just one of those things where obviously who would expect a pandemic? I was like, well, I can go in April because it's only going to be 2 months, you know. So I was really disappointed, and I would have really loved to have met him.
I kind of felt that way. We were doing a documentary that's still going on. We're not doing it anymore, but we were set to go to LA to do interviews, and one was with Joel Schumacher, but COVID had put that all on the back burner, and we were supposed to be in like Abbey Road with Roger Daltrey and all this stuff, and COVID came and it basically just wiped everything out. And then time went on, and we kind of were just like, this project isn't for us, but it would have been class just to have the fact that Joel Schumacher was expecting us. That in itself is just so humbling, right?
Yeah.
I suppose that's the closest we could feel to what you felt like. Wolfgang Peterson, man, that would have been excellent.
And it's also a really kind of strange feeling, because you're disappointed and you didn't get to have this experience, but obviously like it's worse for him. Like, you know, how awful for him to be sick. And so you kind of like, it's a really strange feeling of being sad that he passed, but also like, I'm really like disappointed for myself. But then you don't want to feel like that, because you don't want to, you know.
No, I think it's actually good. And I'll explain why, because his impact on your life in one way or another, something he created, has impacted you enough that like him dying is like secondary as to why you're gutted. That's a compliment. If someone was gutted that I died, but more gutted they didn't get to meet me, I'd be like,
that's a nice way to look at it.
You know
and
what
also, it was Tammy was saying that she was really disappointed because she wanted this lovely full circle moment where she could show him her film for the first time and be like, look, you directed me, and now I've directed a film. And so it was just like so many kind of things happened off the back. But having said that, the pandemic changed the narrative of the documentary. So we were originally going to do, in that April trip, There's the idea, similar to spending more time with Sam and Joey for the other ones, was to do this like road trip with Noah in an RV, like get him away from his environment and just spend time with him, just the three of us for a couple of months, doing like a photography thing on the way. And we were going to, like, we had all these plans, and that obviously didn't happen because of COVID. But as a result of all of that, we became closer to Tammy. And so we ended up going to Munich with her. And so if lockdown didn't happen, we wouldn't have had that thing with Tammy, and we wouldn't have the relationship that we do now. And so again, in the scheme of, I feel like everything happens for a reason, it was disappointing at the time. And it was quite hard to change the narrative of where the documentary had originally planned to go. And it was kind of changing in the edit. But yeah, we try and take the positive out of the negative.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you got to do it in life, eh?
What was the thing that shocked you the most? Like, what piece of information did you find out making this documentary that you really went, oh shit, didn't expect that?
I think how many people had a love-hate relationship with the film, and everyone loved the film. Everyone was so proud to work on the film. But a lot of people had a really bad experience, like Klaus Doldinger, the composer, being like blindsided that his music was going to change for the other version. Colin wasn't asked on the future one, so he felt really sad that he wasn't appreciated. Alan Oppenheimer not being asked to Munich. And so it was...
He's the man.
He seems like such a sweetheart as well.
So I was really surprised how even like that they were kind of, some people were treated badly, whatever the reasoning, behind the top level of people, maybe they didn't intend to, I don't know. But so that they were treated badly, but then B, they still just had this wonderful affection for the film. I think is probably the thing that stood out to me the most, because making a film is really tough. So I also don't want to just interview people and have them go, oh, it was great, we had a wonderful time, everyone got on, it was like a family, because it isn't always. It's like long days and everyone's angry and tired, and Noah had a horrible time on the film, Tammy had a great time, but then wasn't part of the sequels because of she had a wonderful mother who didn't get her involved in that. So
yeah.
A totally different path to Noah.
Ruined it for the rest of us.
No. So I think that's probably the thing that stood out the most for me.
Yeah. The thing is, see Noah, like his performance was phenomenal, really, when you look at it. And again, when I was watching the documentary, I was like, sometimes we don't actually appreciate just how good Noah was in that.
Yeah, the Swamp of Sadness scene is incredible.
I know. Do you know what? See, as a kid, I figured that out as a kid. I went, I'm not going to get sad. I've seen the end. Artax comes back. Like, I can't be sad anymore. Right?
Or I used to either rewind the ending so I could keep watching Artax, or I would rewind the film after I'd finished it to just before the swamp where he was still around, and I would end the film on like him just being happy going through the fields.
Do you know what's funny is
so it's like it's a fake death, it's a false finish.
Even when we screened the movie, and it had been a long time since that Swamps of Sadness scene. It had been a long time since I'd actually felt emotional watching that scene. But seeing it for the first time in the cinema changed that, because you can hear the sniffles coming from all different directions, and you're like, oh shit, it got me. It's
you think you're not going to cry as an adult? But
yeah, I've seen this movie 1,000 times, and it's only made me cry once in the past, but here, 1,001 times, here I am, a fucking 38-year-old man. Just
Do you know what makes me actually sad?
Sorry.
I was just going to say, like, a lot of people get sad that the horse is dying, right? But what really made me feel sad was the fact that Atreyu's alone now. Like,
that's deep.
His horse, obviously, this it's like when you start out to do something and anything in life, right? There's like a quiet when the people you started with leaves. It's like looking at wedding photos and you go, like, most of them are dead. You know what I mean?
That's really sad.
But that's the truth, though, right?
You need to do a fucking documentary on Kevin, honestly.
Right, but here's the thing. I went back to the place I got married, right? It's a big castle. I went back to it for lunch with my wife, and I felt sad being in there, going, when I was last here, all these people, and I'm only 33, right? When there are people in my wedding photos that are now no longer here. So when I went back there, it was a wee bit like the Swamps of Sadness.
That's really sad.
I know. Sorry, I brought it down there, but for me, this isn't me just giving that everything in the Neverending Story. And I was talking again to Lindsay about this. Right, the Neverending Story has so much meaning and so much depth in it that people just gloss over. Right, but my interpretation of that scene was I wasn't really sad that a horse had died. Obviously, that sucks, but it's more like, well, he now has to go on, knowing his horse is back there, and he's alone. This warrior who's got the weight of the world on his shoulder. He's alone.
Like
That's what was said.
A child to an adult.
100%.
What was what's the trio's stuntman? What was his name again? He seemed like a really nice guy.
Oh,
yeah,
I love Bobby. Yeah.
Yeah. He. What I always thought that part it shows you like quite in depth in the documentary how they had the room on the gimbal for when the nothing's kind of destroying everything.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that scene looked ridiculous because of the wig, like.
Me too, and you can tell.
And it looked even worse watching the behind the scenes stuff. It looked even bigger.
Yeah.
It was like it looked like a fucking, what do you call that thing? The dead cat that you put on the end of a microphone.
A dead cat, exactly that.
It is always fun to try and like spot the stunt double desperately trying to cover their face in the scene.
Oh, Buffy the Vampire Slayer's caked in it. In it.
Yeah, but no, Bobby was wonderful, and he's had an amazing career. So I was very lucky to have him, and so wise, and just such an asset to the documentary.
Yeah,
totally.
He seemed like such a pleasant guy. And one thing that I had to ask about this, Noah's injury.
Mm-hmm.
When you asked about that, it was just like, I heard about it, but I couldn't talk about it. Do you feel there was a little bit of, or?
So, obviously, I was not. The thing with documentaries is you're talking to people where you're asking them about something that happened 40 years ago. And also for a kid, like, I'm not there on set, so I can't assume anything did happen, didn't happen. I can only go by what people say and what their memories are. And obviously, as a kid, like, I remember things as a kid totally different. Doesn't mean you don't believe it. My personal feeling is it's something did happen, but I was talking to Noah later when we weren't rolling, where he was talking about an injury that happened when he was 18. So I 100% believe he had a back injury, just from what I know personally, obviously not there. I feel like something did happen, but it maybe wasn't
as bad,
which is an awful thing to say. Obviously, he's like, I've no doubt he's gone through pain and gone through back injury, but I also feel like maybe he had parents who pushed him into believing certain things happened worse.
And his memories have crossed and conflated as well.
But obviously that's just my opinion. I wasn't there. You know, but
this is all
allegedly. It is, and that, like I was saying, with documentaries, it's tricky because you don't want to. You can't really have a decision on anything. You just have to kind of present people's answers and let the audience decide for themselves, because people will have different opinions from watching it. Herman might have also, been a bit cagey because he's the producer. I don't know. So jury's out.
You can imagine, like, anything we ever do, J Mac, like if it was us talking about it 10 years later, I'd be like, you should have seen that horse that snapped J Mac in two, and then have a wee chuckle to it. I would being
like 11, and also you have like all these people telling you, and I just, my gut feeling is that his mum probably made situations difficult and maybe saw opportunities to maybe make some more money, or like she was very much into the financials of why he was working so much.
There seemed to be a bit of, like, again, the blurb at the beginning said that the Neverending Story took 5.5 months to film, but then Noah's talking about being there for a year and stuff. It's kind of like, where's...
But that's it again. To an 11, 12-year-old, it probably felt like a year. And maybe he was told stories. But so part of the reason for me, I was like, I have to also go with the facts that I know. And I knew from Herman the exact dates of the production. So all I can do is be like, this is what happened, actually happened, like date-wise. But of course, I'm if I probably fell over when I was 11, it'd be like, oh, I fell over and then like I broke both my legs and I was in hospital for 7 days, and it just tends to escalate, I think. But
watching that documentary, one thing for me where I was like, if I could probably jump into any scene, when you went to the archives and you got to look through, oh man, what was that like? And you saw so many versions of the script. Tell us what there was a spider, right?
A giant spider.
There was a spider. And there was a giant spider in Flash Gordon, and they cut them both out. But it was interesting to see all the iterations, because the scripts, they had Artax talking in some of them like they did in the book, and Herman talks about certain characters that he really wanted into it, like Will-O-the-Wisp was one. Yeah, and so you can kind of, it was, we didn't really have time to sit and read them all, which I would have loved. But I had this vision of like walking down all these like archive shelves, but it was also during the middle of COVID, and so a section that we could have gone to, we weren't allowed to because of COVID, and so they just were very lovely and brought everything into a room for us, and we could just go through it. But it was kind of exciting to see like all the production stills and all the photos and the scans and Wolfgang's notes and a lot of stuff in German that I was like, oh, I really wish some legal documents I could read German. But yeah, that's part of the fun of doing these documentaries, is kind of getting to see the access. And also then what's fun is in the imprint release, they have done a reproduction of the 84 press release that they sent out. And it's spot on. And I know it's spot on because I saw the original one in Berlin. And so that's kind of like a fun little pinch me moment. It's like, you should
be their campaign woman. Like, imagine, like, think about you're like, yeah, this is not shite. I'll tell you that. I looked at that.
Props to imprint. They did the most remarkable.
100%. 100%.
I might need to ask for it for Christmas or something. That's the only time I ever get the amount of money spent on me.
Yeah. My wife's like, you bought a Blu-ray again, even if it was like £3, right? C-Files, there's not a Blu-ray coming and you need to be in for this one because we'll need to sign for it. It's going to happen. I will get that. Just no right now. But those are not going to go out of print though, are they? They're not. Like,
they are limited.
Oh, great. Awesome.
I don't know how many they have left, but they are limited.
Oh no! Well, it'll have to be sooner. I have to say that.
They've got one left, and Ticketmaster just bought it. So good luck.
Yeah.
Great. I'll never see it. Lisa, we could talk to you for hours, days, weeks, months, and think about it. We're only chatting right now about Neverending Story, and you've done documentaries on some of our favourite films, and you've got documentaries coming out. I've got here Life After the Goonies, which will be outstanding. Life After Grease, Life After Goodfellas. Previously, Life After the Navigator, Life After Flash, and there is the Life After Movies web show, which
I should be better at. I should post more on it, but we get busy filming. But I do enjoy doing this.
No,
by the way,
they're really good.
I loved Navigator. I watched that yesterday.
I really like that too. It has a special place.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a real shame what Joey obviously or putting himself through. It's hard to tell what phrase to use, but he seems to be doing a lot better, and it was nice to see that kind of come to fruition at the end. And
that was really special. Yeah, for me, we, like I was saying, that we became pen pals, which was just so lucky that the timing was right. So we had this rapport before we even met, and then we just happened to be on the journey with him for the first 3 years of him getting out, which you can kind of see in his face and everything. Like, so it was a really special journey for me to be on as well.
Yeah,
it does look good. Yeah.
So thank you for that. It was great.
This is a Matthewman creation. Almost every time we have a guest, Matthewman will illustrate one of us. Honestly, we've got our own archive. One day when this podcast means something to someone else, there will be an archive of all these Photoshop things that insert us into films, which
you should
forever
do
crack us up.
Limited edition coffee table book.
I absolutely would. See if anybody would buy it. I totally would do it. But it'd be awesome, eh? Like I say, it's been phenomenal. We wish we had more time yet, and we will. Of course, you're more than welcome to join us again at any point, especially when you've got your new stuff coming, because we'd love to help spread the word. Not that you would need it, but we're more than up for talking about it. And
always need help. So I'd love to
100%.
come back on and talk about Goonies a bit later.
Anytime. Is that will that be the first one to drop?
Goodfellas will probably be the next one. Then Goonies. But we're still working out timelines. So, but yeah, we filmed more of Goodfellas than we have of Goonies.
Okay. Oh, excellent. And we'll get you back on with your husband, because he'll have a lot to say about that, and it'll be exciting.
There you go. You can talk about Goodfellas.
Yeah, something tells me you're like, yeah, Goodfellas is all right.
I do know I mean, who doesn't? I mean, Goodfellas is iconic. You know, it's filmmaking masterpiece. So I can't. I didn't have the connection. I didn't watch it obviously as a kid.
Yeah, of course.
Dead bodies and things. But, I really appreciate it as an adult. So I've actually really enjoyed the Goodfellas journey as well.
No, that's awesome. Excellent. You can, everybody that's watched this and will watch it, if you're listening on Spotify, everywhere, obviously this goes onto Spotify and Apple Music everywhere pretty much after we stop. www.lifeaftermovies.com. You can essentially get everything that you guys do there. There's links to it. You can buy the official merch, which you should always. You don't have t-shirts yet, no? Yeah,
I need to get t-shirts, and I really want beanies, but it's always like we do have VHS of Life After the Neverending Story.
Yeah.
But I do need to work on the merch.
Well, I know someone, so if you
watch this, here he goes.
Genuinely, check out our store if you like that. We can literally get you hooked up where it's you own, like the order comes in, then it gets made. So it's not even, there's no upfront.
That's always
or
the
nothing.
issue, isn't it? Because I have a garage of Blu-rays, so.
Right. Well, we'll promote them every week because everybody that watches us loves the same stuff. We all love the same stuff. You've been so busy, so we totally appreciate you giving us your time. You did not come across like you were tired at all. So thank you.
I'm slightly flagging. It's been a really long week.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for your time. And like I says, you're welcome back on anytime, and we'd love to chat to you more. But thank you again for doing, and thank you for doing these amazing documentaries, because folk like us need that. Lindsay says, "Great episode, folks. I'll be all over Life After Goonies." See,
Yay.
There we go. There we go.
Like
it's been an absolute pleasure, Lisa. Is there anything you'd like to plug before you go?
I think you've done a really great job.
Well,
I mean, I
thank
will say just on the Goonies,
Mhm.
we did a crowdfund on Kickstarter for Life After the Goonies, and it's still, even though it hit the target, it's still open for some perks. So if anyone still wants to be involved, they can just search Life After the Goonies on Kickstarter, and it all helps. So.
Perfect. We will post that on our socials. So if anybody listening, and if you're listening to this not live, we're talking to the people that listen to us like next week in their car driving.
Hello, people.
Go to our Spotify, our socials, and we'll post it, and you can get involved. We're going to get involved in that. It'd be great, because every filmmaker needs support, especially the ones that do stuff like you. So thanks again. Enjoy your rest, and again, we'll very, very much speak soon. All right.
And hopefully you can do Life After Jibber Jabber when we are fucking old. And,
there you go. In 20 years, I'll be emailing you, your gatekeepers.
Well, we'll be chatting regularly anyway, so you don't need to don't need to find us. We'll be readily available.
I'll just message you on Facebook.
Hell yeah! If that's a thing, it'll be something different by then, right? X-Book or something. Elon's going to buy it. Thanks again, Lisa. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Not today, baby.